Amidst hectic diplomatic activity with growing pressure from the West on India's oil deals with Russia, Prime Minister Modi will be meeting virtually with the US President Joe Biden on Monday evening around 8 p.m. This ahead of the 2+2 dialogue between India and the US, which will be led by the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and the Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar on the Indian side, and their US counterparts, the Secretary of Defence Lloyd Austin and the Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. Sunil Prabhu has the details.
That's right. Definitely Ukraine and a whole host of other issues will definitely come up in that bilateral meeting, virtual meeting that is slated tomorrow. Definitely, as you rightly pointed out, the issues not only of Russian oil import, India's non-aligned status, even though we don't officially say it, the fact is that we haven't taken a particular line. We have abstained and have continuously said that there should be a cessation of all hostilities in Ukraine. That will, of course, continue to be impressed upon, apart from the fact that there must be a way forward in terms of a dialogue between Ukraine and Russia, as well as other parties. But more importantly, of course, the fact of that bilateral meeting is not only the Asia-Pacific region, South Asia, Ukraine, but also defense cooperation. And that's the reason why you have no less than the defense minister of the country being present there. And I think the focus of the Americans will be towards that important aspect in tomorrow's deliberations.
And there's tension on the JNU campus after students reportedly clashed over the serving of non-vegetarian food in the mess. The JNUSU has alleged that ABVP members assaulted the mess secretary over the serving of non-vegetarian food in the hostel mess. The ABVP in a statement claims that members of left organizations tried to stop a puja from being organized in the hostel.
संडे के दिन में जेएनयू के हर हॉस्टल में वेज और नॉन वेज दोनों खाना बनता है। तो वेज खाना तो बन गया, लेकिन नॉन वेज खाना को वो लोग वापस भिजवा दिए, तो आधे लोगों से ज्यादा का खाना ही नहीं बना था। तो उसी समय लेटर लिखा गया कि एबीवीपी ने ऐसा किया है। मिस बॉटन को भी एक लेटर दिया गया कि आप बाकी लोगों का खाना अरेंज करवाइए, लेकिन वो खाना अरेंज नहीं करवाया गया। जब 7:30 बजे जब सारे स्टूडेंट गैदर होकर बोलने लगे कि खाना कहाँ है, तो एबीवीपी के लोग आके वहाँ भी हंगामा शुरू कर दिए कि हमारी मर्जी है, हम नहीं खाते वेज, तो आज कोई भी नॉनवेज नहीं खाएगा, इस तरीके की बातें करने लगे। और उसके बाद वो लोग बेसिकली धक्का मुक्की करने लगे। उसमें ही उन्होंने मुझे पेट पे मारा, मेरा फोन लेके इसको तोड़ दिया। इसमें बहुत सारे फुटेजेस थे जिसमें वो मारपीट कर रहे थे, इसीलिए वो लोग तोड़े। मेरा बाइक जो बाहर रखा हुआ था हॉस्टल का, उसको भी तोड़ दिया गया।
वहाँ पर मेस के पीछे उन लोगों ने कोई हवन या पूजा रखा था, उससे कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। वहाँ के जो उस छात्रावास के जो भी छात्र थे, जो भी स्टूडेंट थे, उनका ये मानना था कि आप कुछ भी करें, किसी का कोई रिलीजियस सेंटिमेंट्स यहाँ पर हर्ट नहीं होगा। लेकिन उन लोगों का ये कहना था कि अगर हम यहाँ पर पूजा, एबीवीपी की तरफ जो लोग थे, उनका मानना था कि हम लोग यहाँ पर जब तक पूजा पाठ करेंगे या हवन करेंगे, इस मेस में नॉनवेज नहीं बन सकता है। उसी छात्रावास के कुछ छात्र ऐसे थे जिनका ये कहना था कि आप अपनी सारी चीजों को हमारे ऊपर इम्पोज नहीं कर सकते हैं।
फिलहाल सिचुएशन ये है कि वो लोग लगातार स्लोगनबाजी कर रहे हैं और ये कह रहे हैं कि भारत में जो रहना होगा जय श्री राम कहना होगा, और लगातार छात्रों पे मतलब उनको प्रोवोक किया जा रहा है। उन लोग को मारने के लिए लोग परेशान कर रहे हैं। लगातार पत्थरबाजी पुलिस के सामने भी चल ही रही है लगातार।
इसी कैंपस के कुछ उपद्रवी तत्व लेफ्ट और एनएसयूआई के समर्थन से ये लोग लगातार धमकियां देते आ रहे थे कि तुम्हारा पूजा नहीं होने देंगे, पूजा में बाधा डालेंगे। तो नहीं है, उसी मेस के प्रांगण में, मेस के अंदर इफ्तार की पार्टी चल रही है, इफ्तार का रोजा तोड़ रहे हैं मुस्लिम छात्र, और जस्ट 1 कदम की दूरी पर पूजा हो रही है। तो जब कावेरी रेसिडेंट्स को कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, तो ऐसे लेफ्ट और एनएसयूआई को सामाजिक सौहार्द बिगाड़ने की जो इनकी पराकाष्ठा रही है, तो इनको इस सामाजिक सौहार्द बना रहे, इससे दिक्कत क्यों है।
Let's go across to Akshay Dongre for more on this. So, Akshay, we've heard both sides, but what has the police done regarding the violence? There's some very violence-filled images of students with blood streaming down their heads that are emerging from this violence on the campus.
It's a bizarre report that is coming from the national capital, Sarah, especially with the JNU students of one of the premier universities in the country, clashing over something as petty as serving of non-vegetarian food in the mess. And it's really concerning that this is happening in the heart of the national capital. then what exactly is the JNU administration doing? There are a lot of security guards in the campus, and there are security guards in each and every hostel. So why exactly were the police not called? Why exactly did the Vice Chancellor not intervene when there were reports of tensions coming and there was a possibility of clash between students? As far as the initial evidence is concerned, the students are reporting that there was a puja that was being organized by the ABVP Vidyarthi Parishad in a hostel inside the campus, and the ABVP had the suggestion that since they are organizing a puja, non-vegetarian should not be served to the students, and that was the bone of contention between the left organization and the ABVP. The left student organization was saying that if you have to organize a puja, you are free to do it, but you cannot stop others from eating what they want, and that is when the ABVP students try to force their way into the mess and try to assault the mess secretary. This is also being alleged by the left organization. So after the clash started to grow, there were a lot of students who started gathering at the Kaveri hostel. This is where the clashes have taken place. And after some time, there were reports coming in of violence between the two student wings. There was also reports of stone pelting and students clashing with each other over this issue of serving of non-vegetarian meal to the students. However, the most worrying thing that still remains is that earlier as well, there have been issues of clashes. There have been reports of clashes between student groups.
Correct.
And if the Vice Chancellor was aware of certain tension mounting in the campus, why action was not taken before the situation got out of control?
All right, Akshay Dongre reporting from the national capital. Thank you for that. In other news, the COVID-19 booster shots have begun rolling out for all adults in India. That is, for anyone over the age of 18 who took their second dose at least 9 months ago. Covishield and Covaxin prices were reduced for private hospitals on Saturday and the first day of the rollout, and in a big relief to those seeking vaccinations. But on the first day at least, slash prices weren't reflecting on the ground always.
For 58-year-old Rekha Kalra, a teacher with comorbidities, the priority for Sunday was to get her booster vaccine. Even though the price of the Covaxin and Covishield vaccines has been slashed to Rs 225 a dose, Rekha had to pay much more as hospitals are charging the old rate for stocks purchased at a higher rate. But nothing could dampen her relief at finally getting a precaution dose.
आई एम अ टीचर, तो मैं बहुत देर से वेट कर रही थी कि ये खुल जाए सो दैट मेरे को बूस्टर डोज की बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरत थी. मैं स्कूल में टीचर हूँ तो मुझे बच्चों के साथ इंटरेक्ट करना पड़ता है जी, और फिर रिस्क भी थोड़ा बढ़ जाता है. हाँ बिल्कुल, वेरी रिस्की.
In Guwahati, people queued up since morning.
Rates have been revised, but I think there was some confusion yesterday, which I read that it was 225 rupees, but now they have charged me 150 rupees extra for service charges.
Actually, precaution के हिसाब से बूस्टर डोज ले, क्योंकि अभी ओमिक्रॉन के बाद में और भी नया वेरिएशन आया है, तो इसलिए हम लोग अपना सेफ्टी के लिए इसको ले रहे हैं, ताकि और हम लोग कहीं भी बाहर आना जाना कर सकें इजीली, तो हम लोग कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं हो.
In Chennai, Tamil Selvi, a mother of two, was among the first to take the paid booster dose.
நல்லா ஃபீல் பண்ணுறேன் சார், நோய் வராமல் தடுக்கிறதுக்கு நல்லா ஃப்ரீயாக ஃபீல் பண்ணுறேன் சார். நல்லா நிறைய பேர் கஷ்டப்படுறாங்க, அதனால் ஃப்ரீயாக படுறது ரொம்ப நல்லது.
Not far away, Pachamma, a flower seller, says she'll be skipping the paid booster dose. She earns around 300 rupees a day. With 6 members in a family, all of whom were hit with a loss of income during the last 2 lockdowns, she just can't afford it.
அப்படியே விழுந்தவங்க அப்படியே தான் இருக்கிறாங்க, நிம்மதி எழுந்துக்க முடியாமல் விட்டுருவாங்க. வீட்டில் 4 பேர் இருக்கிறவங்களே அந்த இந்த ஊசியில் இருக்கிற ஊசியே போட மாட்டாங்க. காசு கொடுத்து போகிறதே ஒரு 2 பேர் 1 பேர் தான் போட முடியும், 6 பேர் மொத்தமாக போட முடியாது. இருக்கப்பட்டவங்க போட்டுருவாங்க.
Hospitals say they will comply with the new prices soon.
The government has put a cap, and I'm sure all the private sector hospitals will abide by it. Probably it will roll out in a few days.
While the precautionary dose will give that extra protection from the virus, the big question is the government leaving the poor to fend for themselves. Many have even suggested the idea of tapping into PM Cares Fund. With Akshay Dongre and Ratnadeep Chaudhary, in Chennai with Suresh, Sam Daniel, for NDTV.
And there's been a pushback, particularly by political leaders from South India against the Home Minister's Hindi pitch. The Telangana Minister K.T. Rama Rao has called it language chauvinism. The Congress leader Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary from West Bengal has called it cultural terrorism.
Telangana Minister K.T. Rama Rao says it is language chauvinism on the part of Union Home Minister Amit Shah to advocate Hindi as an alternative to English and would boomerang. In a tweet, KTR, as he is popularly known, said, "Why don't we let people of our grand nation decide what to eat, what to wear, who to pray to and what language to speak?" Adding, to impose Hindi and dis-English will be a great disservice to the youngsters of this nation who have global aspirations. Amit Shah had said at a meeting of the Parliamentary Official Language Committee that states should communicate with each other in Hindi rather than in English. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin has warned that a push to impose Hindi will destroy India's integrity.
Anybody who tells you that you have to go to a 3-language formula first is basically just got, fundamental flaw in the logic. Because why should I have a 3-language formula? What does 3-language mean? It says you in Tamil Nadu learn Tamil plus English plus Hindi. And the usual retort is the third language can be used to communicate within India. But Hindi is not intrinsic to at least 60-70% of the country.
A sentiment echoed by the Congress in West Bengal as well.
सारे हिंदुस्तान में कितने लोग हिंदी कहते हैं और कितने लोग हिंदी ना कहते इसको सारे आंकड़ा निकाले जाए आपको पता चलेगा 40 के ज्यादा कुछ लोग हिंदी कहते हैं बाकी हिंदी नहीं बोलते हैं तो ये कल्चरल टेररिज्म लगता है मेरे लिए.
Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan said, India is a country which is known for its unity in diversity. The Sangh Parivar's agenda is not to recognize diversity and federalism of our country. It's part of their agenda to weaken the regional languages. Meanwhile, a social media post by music composer A.R. Rahman has gone viral, in which he has quoted a famous Tamil poet saying, "Beloved Tamil is the root of our existence." Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
And the Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy keeping his promise made in June of 2019 of revamping his cabinet halfway through his tenure has reconstituted it. The newly formed cabinet has a mixture of senior and experienced leaders as well as fresh and young faces for a balanced governance. There's also a big representation for scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, backward castes and minorities. Let's get you some business news right now. Electric vehicle retail sales have seen over a threefold jump in India in the last fiscal year. Now, what's behind this push? Sakshi Bajaj reports on the highlights and concerns and on a further uptick on the sector that is anticipated. But battery availability remains a pain point.
Electric vehicle retail sales witnessed over a threefold jump in the country last fiscal, with sales hitting 4.29 lakh units versus 1.35 lakh units the previous fiscal, as per the Federation of Automobile Dealers Associations of India. If we now look at the data just on a monthly basis, electric two-wheeler sales led the spike by witnessing a jump of 53%, and the sale of electric passenger vehicles have grown by 51% in the month of March. However, what has witnessed a decline was the sale of electric commercial vehicles, which fell by 27%. The Federation of Automobile Dealers Associations of India told NDTV that within the next couple of months, new launches in the two-wheeler segment from legacy players are expected, and this could help boost electric vehicle sales further. However, he also mentioned the availability of batteries remains a concern, as demand exists but companies are not being able to scale up production to meet that demand, which primarily comes from Chinese firms. Speaking on the future of electric vehicles in the country, Director General of Automotive Component Manufacturers Association of India told NDTV that the electric vehicle industry will go through an evolutionary process in India and things will stabilize in due course.
And amidst the ongoing crisis in Sri Lanka, a high-level delegation is all set to meet with the IMF on the 11th of April, that is Monday, to discuss Sri Lanka's mounting financial challenges. And 40,000 metric tons of diesel reached Sri Lankan shores over the weekend, but citizens there continue to wait in queues for over 2 hours for fuel. NDTV Shrija reports from Ground Zero.
We are right now reporting outside the Lanka filling station. Now this is the queue that we are witnessing. Now even though the second shipment from Sikka, India has arrived on the Sri Lankan shores. We have also in fact reported from the Colombo port, where we did see the ship carrying, Merapi ship carrying nearly 40,000 metric tons of diesel have arrived here in Sri Lankan shores. But however, there is a clear short supply of petrol at all the filling stations. If I could go across to one person here who's joining us, how long, for how many days you've been facing a similar issue like this?
I think like last month, since last month we are facing this issue.
Okay.
And but it's still government not take any action for this.
Okay, now for you as a common man, how many hours do you spend like this? Waiting
Like
at the
sometimes actually we are spending like 1 hour to get the fuel.
Okay.
Actually to get the diesel, some people are waiting like 2-3 days. If I get the personally this actually it's affected a lot as a common man. Okay. And if you look at the normal people in here, they are struggling with the fuel, electricity and all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us. The situation is only worsening by the day. Of course, like the citizen here pointed out, saying that, some people continue to wait for 2 to 3 days together as for diesel is concerned. Now, though the consignment is reached from India, we see the docking has not happened just yet. And also the unloading of the fuel is yet to take place. Now, that is the protocol which is followed by the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation. But on ground scenario, if I really have to talk about, this is the long serpentine queue that we are witnessing. It's over, in fact, it's a pretty long queue. There are over at least 70 to 80 vehicles that are lined up here. And this is a similar situation across every district here in Sri Lanka, because there is clearly no respite for people here in Sri Lanka, because they spend hours together, not just for fuel, but also even for essential commodities and cooking gas, at the right before cooking gas distribution centers. In Colombo with camera person Govind Murthy, Shrija for NDTV.
And that's the news at this hour. Bye-bye.